Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. I'm Cipher, and this is the Devil's Advocate Debate Club. Welcome back. Today I was back in my hometown and found out that it's one of these cities that has passed an ordinance against automatically handing customers plastic straws. I didn't really stop to think about exactly how bad an idea this was until it happened in my city. So let's talk about the ban on plastic straws. Now, one of the first things I heard about this ban or restriction is in many places they're not actually banned outright, but you now simply have to ask for them where you didn't before. One of the first things I heard about this was that the paper straws they were replacing the plastic straws with were not recyclable, whereas the plastic straws were. This immediately makes them more of a drain on the environment. But okay, so what about the places where they're just asking you if you want a straw? Well, at a fast food place, as I assume the answer is nearly always yes. This is a waste of time, as if it's a extreme minority of people, as it seems to be from talking to fast food workers who do not want and do not take the straw, it would be much, much more efficient for the minority of people to request no straws than to request a straw. This would be like if, say, they found out that ice machines were a harsher draw on the environment than just producing the soda itself, which could very well be true, and stopped putting ice in your drinks unless you specifically requested it, despite the fact that the vast majority of people want ice and a straw in their drinks. Now, I was just going to keep wasting my time and answering the question every time at the fast food joints without making a big deal of it outside of poking fun here and there, but no, the city ordinance where I come from, which seems to be more and more common these days, actually bans all kinds of businesses from handing out straws, like convenience stores, where they used to just have straws there. It would seem like this is the perfect solution. You take one if you want it, you leave it if you don't. These days, though, according to a city ordinance where I come from and in other places, they can't put the straws out. It's actually illegal for them. You have to go up to the counter and request a straw. They then have to go and get one from a straw location, which, at least the last place I went to, wasn't at the counter, wasting like 45 seconds of everyone's time, including the line of people waiting for the cashier, anytime somebody needs a straw, which happened twice while I was in getting gas and waiting for my change, even though I decided not to get a drink there myself, as I just found this completely ridiculous. So, I've already figured out a solution to this problem, since I will not be wasting my time requesting straws from people behind the counter at my local convenience stores, but intend to still drink my drinks on the road without spilling them all over myself. I will be buying a bag of plastic straws to carry with me in my car. Now, if the bag spills open and the straws land on the floor, they will have to be thrown away. This will have to be a bag of tall straws, so no matter what size of drink I get, the straw will reach the bottom. This means any time that I get a smaller drink, I will be wasting plastic and using a straw bigger than necessary, only to throw it away after the fact. This is all an example of how the straw ban will now be leading me, personally, to use more plastic and have more harm on the environment than if they would just give me a stupid straw like they have my entire life, or, leave them out. And they still will. It's literally just set up to be a waste of people's time. These strike me as rules that are written by people who won't be affected by them. People who don't use straws in the car because they're too busy sipping from scotch glasses while their chauffeur drives them around. And I could be wrong, but let's look at the recent kerfuffle, I love that word, with the, I believe, prince and princess in the UK, whoever it was. Anyway, a couple of celebrities of the royal family in the UK recently took private jets and stayed on a yacht and all kinds of things while talking constantly about how everybody needs to be getting their carbon footprint down. And then Elton John came out and said, well, no, it's okay. I offered them the jet, but then I paid off the carbon footprint to one of those companies where you can pay money to atone for your carbon use. This is entirely hypocritical, as the people are preaching this problem as if it is a now or never end of the world scenario in which we should all be using sailboats to cross rivers because we need to stop carbon now. And, maybe they have a point. Now, if we completely removed the carbon from the Western world, UK, France, America, Canada, so on, India and China would still produce so much that it would hardly be noticeable. So the only real carbon solution for our country right now on a global scale would be some sort of action against the countries that are producing the carbon in an attempt to get them to stop. However, if you're saying that America and Britain and so forth should be reducing their already fairly insignificant carbon outputs when compared to the rest of the world, you should really be leading by example. There are many people who've talked about how the solution to climate change isn't an overreaching one. It starts at home. It starts with each and every one of us doing what we can to reduce our carbon emissions. And, I try to be a part of that. I try to carpool. I try to, drive I drive a Corolla. It's, not a gas guzzler. It's not an electric vehicle because currently the mining for the batteries and all of that actually makes them, in my opinion, less environmentally friendly than the car I'm driving. While I'm not perfect and I plan to keep using those plastic straws, I do, about the best that I can. And I think really most even remotely environmentally conscious people do. However, that's people in the middle and lower class. Rich people seem to have, a taste for paying off their carbon footprint, which really just means that they're still part of the problem, as a lot of these companies that they're paying to's efforts to reduce carbon emissions or decarbonate the world are, dubious at best, especially since all of them, as far as I can tell, scoff at the idea of, what were they called? The carbon reduction machines, basically. There is a way now to build big machines that filter the carbon out of our atmosphere, and I forget exactly what they produce, but basically it's a way to reduce greenhouse gases that most people I've seen who are worried about the environment completely scoff at, as far as I can tell, because it's a corporate mechanical solution and they're not interested unless it's a social or economic solution. Generally speaking, from the plans that I've seen, with an amazing amount of social overreach. Despite the fact that while there are lots of people freaking out about the environment, and there are lots of problems that need to be addressed, we kind of have solutions, or at least pretty strong ideas of solutions for them. And just like most things, humans seem to just be waiting till it gets bad before fixing it. Now, I know I started this talking about plastic straws and then went into environmentalism at large, but it's the same basic idea. It's the people who don't go to McDonald's and don't use plastic straws. It's the people who fly their private jets across the ocean to stay on a carbon-guzzling luxury yacht before lecturing you about your carbon footprint. It's these people who are pushing the policy changes and attempting to make social decisions without thinking about the lives of the rest of us. And hey, maybe I'm just being old and obstinate and too attached to my plastic straws. Maybe I'm part of the problem in my unwillingness to, switch to non-recyclable cardboard, which seems to be more damaging to the environment to me. But hey, maybe I'm just old-fashioned. Or to, ultimately spill my drink all over myself anytime that I'm driving. So hey, I'm gonna keep using plastic straws, and the plastic straw rules in my area are sadly going to make me less environmentally friendly. But that is very, very frequently the case with environmentalism. Recycling plastic, such as the straws, is a process which still produces more carbon than creating the plastic from new. It's actually worse for the environment to recycle plastic in many ways than it is to make new plastic. What we're really saving is the resource itself, which we have an overabundance of. So even recycling, one of the cornerstones of environmentalism in America today, is actually quite deceptive when it comes to its actual impact on us and on the environment. But just remember, the next time you see one of these ridiculous laws suggesting that we ban ice or whatever it is next from our stores and restaurant chains, just remember that even if we ban it all and reduce our emissions entirely countrywide as a nation or as a group of Western countries with most of the rest of our allies to zero, even if we get rid of it all, it won't have an impact on the 12-year scenario that the environmentalists have laid out before us, because China and India almost exclusively are the problem. If we want to start looking at dealing with environmentalism, we either need to go to war, hard conflict, and basically make them stop, something which I think most environmentalists are against, or we probably need to start looking into heavy trade sanctions, even on China, one of our largest and most important trade partners, with the distinction that we'll drop the sanctions when they drop the carbon emissions. This is probably going to be a lot more effective on India than China, but regardless, I've recently heard it argued by what was his name? Hassan Piker, Cenk of the Young Turks' nephew. Now, surrounded by a series of much more insulting things, which he's since then walked back, he said that soft power, that things like sanctions, are exactly the same thing as hard power, that this is just America using its power in a different way. But he said that they are exactly the same thing as hard power. And I know he was in the middle of a ridiculous rant, which has been retconned, but I talk to people on Twitter, and there are a lot of environmentalists who really do feel that way, who feel that... Well, it's not environmentalists, excuse me. I've been saying environmentalists so much in this video, trying carefully to avoid saying the left in place of them, since not all environmentalists are on the left. In this case, it went the other way, though. What I meant to say was that I've ran into many, many people on the left, especially people on Twitter, who do feel that soft power coming from a position of power like the United States is the same thing as military intervention. Personally, I disagree. I do think that we need to do something about the world's carbon emissions, but while most solutions for almost any problem imaginable, I would suggest we start at home, looking at the numbers, this is one of those few exceptions where I think we really need to start looking into solutions abroad, and potentially even, well, if not military, then at least slightly aggressive ones. Because if the world really is going to end or have irreparable damage done to it in 10 or 12 years, we need to do something about it. And there's no change at home that will make a difference. But hey, that's just my research-based opinion. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. Always happy to hear from you. I'm your host, Cipher. Thank you for watching the Devil's Advocate Debate Club.